Hey guys, welcome you all to another episode of Breaking the Stigma, so-called taboo that we have been living with in centuries. We have that in our mind. So we have an amazing couple with us who's going to share their life story, how they have gone through ups and downs of their life, how they have come so far with one another, and what they have been through their journey. For some, this might be a bulb-on moment. For some, this might be, I don't agree with it. Why do I have to listen? But once you listen to it, you'll definitely get to know what it is. And till the time you don't listen to what they have to say, you won't understand what their story is. So stay tuned with us and listen to it. So what's your take, Akansha, on this? Like, what do you think it would be like?
Preeti, I feel that, love has way more power than any of the social norms and stigma associated with it. And this is what I think that we'll be finding out in this webinar today. And I'm pretty excited to meet Anupama and Rainy here on our webinar. So let's see what our viewers also have to say about it.
Yeah, let's talk.
Hi, Anupama. Hi, Rainy. How are you guys?
Very well.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So actually, me and Preeti are so happy to have you with us today. And it's honestly such a pleasure to have such strong-headed people amongst us. And I would also say this thing that I heard your story from Preeti earlier. And I was so inspired by the steps that you took and the way you made the decision. And I'm sure now that this story with Calm Sage will be an inspiration for many others who still don't have the courage to stand up for themselves, even though they realize what they're looking for. So before me and Preeti begin taking up the questions, we would also like to tell our audience on Calm Sage that we want you both to express how you both met, how long have you been together, and what do you do both professionally. So in a brief, if you can let us know about yourselves.
I can't explain that. Okay, I am a trained textile designer, and I'll edit that. I'm a trained textile artist.
Okay.
And currently, I work with Mr. Tarun Taryani as his head design R&D, which means I'm basically responsible for all the new design that comes out of the studio, at least at the initial and the beginning phase. And then on it's taken by the different departments. Rennie is...
Yeah, I am into fitness, and I am doing a course of personal trainer, so that I can pursue that field. Yeah, that's what I guess.
Yeah. So we met nearly 4 years ago now. Nearly 4 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
Where Rennie used to work in the gym that I used to go to, and we struck up a friendship, which eventually we realized goes way beyond being just friends. We knew where each of us came from at that time. We knew how we met, and I think right from the beginning we knew the repercussions of what would happen to us if we got together. We did try our level best to stay away from each other. It didn't work.
Okay.
Destiny was there with you, huh?
I don't know about destiny, but I think the bigger thing here is that we were both there with each other. I think if one of us would have fallen off, or one of us would have been in that position where we felt that this is probably not the right thing to do, it might never have seen this day.
But both of you stuck together with one another.
We both stuck together with one another. We both stuck together with one another through a lot.
Yeah.
Through a lot.
Okay. Right. Okay.
That's really, like, I would say it's really inspiring. And yes, you have summed up everything so nicely and beautifully, how long your journey has been, how you guys met and everything. So hearing your story is actually giving me goosebumps, and I would like to know if my audience, the viewers that are listening to us, are also feeling the same. So please keep sharing your views in the comment box. Now with this same energy, with the enthusiasm, with love in the air. So let's begin with the round of questions. The first questions would be taken up with Akanksha.
Okay. So I was just, wanted to ask you the first question, like, what does this word discrimination here mean to you? So let's just start with that directly.
Discrimination to me means when you are creating a difference between two genders and you are giving importance to only one of the gender only, like you're keeping other gender or their interest like they are you are not noticing their interest or what they want to do. So that is discrimination for me.
Right. Okay. Anupama?
So, if I have to talk about discrimination, I have to tell you a story.
We're all young.
When I was born, I think everybody was expecting a boy, because I have an older sister who is daughter. She's 2 years older than me. And it seems that when my mom went into labor with me, and apparently I was, as my father used to laugh and put it, a 5% contraceptive failure.
Okay.
And on top of that, I was a girl. So when I was born and my parents' friends went to my grandmother and said, Mataji, utho, sarla ke ladki hui hai. My grandmother turned her back and covered her head with a quilt and went off to sleep and said, to kya karu? I think before I was born, or rather at the time that I was born, that was my brush with discrimination. I was already discriminated against. I was already put into a slot. I was already judged that I was not wanted because I was another girl. Regardless of that, I think through the years that we grew up, because we were quite a few girls in the family, in our joint family that we were, my grandmom learned to look past the fact that we were women, and was actually, I think by the time she passed away at the age of 100, she was quite proud of what the girls had done. Regardless of that, some things end up staying with you.
Right.
But what discrimination actually is what we faced when we got together.
Right.
And for a person like me who has had a very full life, I've seen everything. I have seen a lot of fame. I have seen a lot of glamour. I have seen, what it is like to be put on a pedestal for people and, things like that, to be a name that is known everywhere. For me, the worst discrimination came from family. Not being treated as if you were a normal human being, but being treated as if you were not human at all. This coming from the very people who would talk about my experiences or my accolades to the world and sundry suddenly were treating me as if I was a mentally ill patient. That was the worst discrimination I think that I faced. And to have faced it at this age, I think really put people in perspective for me. Because it became completely a matter of perception. Being discriminated as a girl child when I was growing up did not hurt so badly. Because I knew my sister had the same discrimination. My other cousins who were born 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, they had the same discrimination. But at the age of 46, when you face the kind of discrimination that says, hello, you know what, you're wrong. And suddenly it was we don't want to talk to you and we don't want to have anything to do with you. That felt worse.
So you must have actually gone through a lot of mental trauma in the same phase, like not getting support from the family in that case, already being discriminated earlier and facing worse kind of discrimination later.
It pinches.
Right.
It pinches to know that at that point of time, your family is not in your corner.
Right.
They're not. And that hurt. It's like,
Right. So I guess coming to this second part of the same thing, I'm sure that this was a tough, very tough transition that you went through. You both went through. But like, if I ask you in this term, that how hard was it for you to leave your family and completely move out? Completely move out from the house. And how was your journey in that case? This transition, leaving the family and everything. How did that go for both?
I think it wasn't hard to leave the family
Okay.
because they don't understand this. So
okay, that's her take.
Okay.
Yeah, in her case, I don't think it was hard for her to leave her family at all, because she's faced that discrimination from the day she was born as well.
Okay.
And from possibly the time that she realized who she is, she has faced nothing but discrimination. And you face that for so long, the one thing that's only on your mind is how fast can I get out of it?
Right.
And she stepped out because she has been who she is forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. She's never been anybody else. She's never had to wear a mask. She's never had to pretend to be girly or, something of that sort, or to pretend to be somebody that she's not. She's been who she is. And that's possibly made it more difficult for her. And therefore, leaving that amount of abuse that mental abuse that gets heaped on you was more like, okay, now this is all left behind, I can breathe suddenly. In my case, I think I wouldn't say that I've left family. Because in my case, the three people who were always in my corner, who stood up for me, no matter what happened, were my kids and my sister.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
I didn't really feel like I left family. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It never felt like that. The first person that I came out to was my daughter.
Okay.
She's the person I spoke to. She's the person I said, this is what's happening to me. And I knew she would understand, because by then she was 20 years old. She had been in US for 3 years. She had co-workers, classmates, roommates, flatmates who were gay, who were different. And she grew up with a very, very, very open mentality.
Right.
And her only advice to me was, she said, Mom, you do what makes you happy.
Right.
We are with you no matter what. My son was exactly the same, even though he was only 14 at that time. He was crystal clear. He says, Mom, you need to do what makes you happy. That's it. We are with you. End of story. And that's exactly what my sister told me. Nobody else really mattered to me. Nobody else. And nobody else mattered because I'm a self-made person. I've been earning my living since I was 21.
Okay.
So for me, it was very easy to leave that environment where I felt constantly made to feel like I was sick, like I was wrong, that I was just sick, nor guilty, nor wrong in having taken the step that I did. I simply stepped out of what was perceived by society as the right marriage into something what I thought was the right companionship. And that to me,
normal and abnormal.
That to me was more than anything. If my mother thought that the right thing to do was to stay with this person because you were married to him, it doesn't matter that you have nothing with each other, but log kya kahenge?
Right.
And I said, jo log kahenge wo kar.
Right.
I would rather step out for my companionship than to stay there for your peace of mind. It's not my shame to carry.
Right.
It's your shame to understand. I am not ashamed of who I am. I am who I am. So for me, the biggest support came from my kids. It came from my sister. And I think that also helped us in a lot of ways, because the people who really mattered to us supported us.
Were there.
And like I said, I'm a self-made person. My life was not being paid for by anybody other than me. So I never had that feeling about oh my God, if I step out of this system, what's going to happen? It was like, I've always been just me. It's been me and my kids and this house. I have not had anybody who supported me in this. I have not had somebody feeding me or clothing me or, saying, I'll pay for your lifestyle, just go take 6 months off. And no, it's never been like that. So it was very easy to step out of that kind of, mental harassment and say, I don't need you anymore.
Right.
I don't. You have to make a choice whether you want to be in my life or not. I have made my choice.
Right. And of course, then Reni's strong-headedness, that she was always not carrying any kind of mask and everything, might have helped you definitely all through this.
It did, because I spent 1 year being made to feel so guilty about my choices.
Right.
So guilty. I had people telling me that I was a homebreaker. And I was like, whose home have I broken? I haven't broken any home. My kids are still with me.
Right.
Yeah, one is sitting in the US and one is in a hostel. But at the end of the day, my kids are still with me. Whose home have I broken? It's not like that. It's just that when people cannot understand what you're looking at, then they will feel that way. And to them, heterosexual union is the way to go. It doesn't matter that you've not had anything in the name of a marriage for years, for God's years, and you may be two people living under the same roof, but what the society perceives is, oh my God, what a perfect marriage, perfect house, perfect 2 children. Is that how you're going to spend the rest of your life? That's your choice.
But
it wasn't mine.
I'm glad you chose what makes you happy, and I'm glad that your sister, your kids are always there. And you chose what made you happy.
Ironically, the person who got me out of the guilt was my sister and my daughter.
Wow.
They were the people who really helped me get out of that guilt that I felt of having walked away from what was perceived as a family unit.
Right.
But I think now it's an even bigger family. At the end of the day, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the kids have 2 families.
Right.
So that's the way it is.
Okay.
The support system being from your kids, from your sister, definitely would have been giving you a good amount of strength to come out with everything, to face everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
And I think it is because of their support system that we had the courage to do what we could do. Because somewhere in the time when we started realizing that we cannot be without each other, this is what my sister told me. She said, if you have the guts, then go live together. Be together if you have the guts to do that. So I said, okay, done deal. That's the way it's going to have to be done.
Right.
End of story. There is no ifs and buts about it. Because I said, whatever happens, I'm not going to hide. That's not me. That would have been me wearing a mask and saying, oh my God, you know what? In front of everybody, I'm this perfect, proper, you can put me on a pedestal and worship me kind of person. But otherwise, I have my own sordid life. What is normal? Is normal staying like that? Or is normal staying with the person you love? And now when we look at some heterosexual marriages, we're like, is that what is considered normal? You know what? We're very happy being with them. We are who we are. That's it.
Right.
Okay. So, I would say the question that we are coming up with, we might seem a little out of league, but yes, our viewers might want to know some of your opinions on it. So, do you think that a country or people has the right to dictate how one should maintain their private or family life? As you say, that society was saying you all sort of things. So, do you think that a country or people have that right?
No. I think nobody. And when I say nobody, I mean no God, no religion, no society, no group of people has the right to tell you how to live and who to live. We are all human. By discriminating against a kind of people who are unsure about their gender or do not conform to their biological gender or are not the sexuality that you think should be, is treating them as if they are not human. And we are as human as anyone. We are not a mutation. We are not an aberration. We haven't come from another planet.
We are not mutants.
We are not, much as we may love to be. But we are not. Unfortunate. We're as human as they come. So no country, no religion, no society, no rules. Nobody has the right to discriminate or to repress you or to force you into living in a certain way or living according to their norms.
I'm sure. I'm very sure after hearing both of you, I don't know how much of the change we will be able to make up with this video, but at least a few people will be able to understand that actually no matter if two people are loving each other, then you are nobody. I mean, no country, no other person has a right to even speak about you guys. So yeah.
Whatever it is that I do not do it on the street.
Yeah.
I have an insanely respectable job. Insanely respectable. I'm very lucky that I work with a person who, I think in our studio, at least in the design team, straight people are a minority.
Okay.
They're a very serious minority. Every boy in the design team is gay.
Okay.
Every single person. The only straight boy we have is Tarun himself. He's the only straight man we have around.
Okay.
He doesn't belong to this planet because of the way he thinks.
Okay.
All the youngsters who come to work with him are very scared of making their parents meet him because he is the way he is.
Right.
They'll probably look at him and they'll drag the children right back to where they came from, saying, "Is aadmi ke saath to kaam nahi karna bhai." Because he thinks so differently. He gives you so much of freedom of expression. I will not display my sexuality or my choices or my preferences if I'm in my workplace or if I'm walking on the road, if I'm buying vegetables or whatever.
Right.
We're two people just trying to make a living. We're two people who live together.
Right.
We don't infringe on your lifestyle. We do not claim to pronounce anything for your lifestyle. Imagine if the tables turned and I said that you can't do this here and you can't do that here. How would you feel? Just because right now we're not so many in number and we prefer to keep a low profile. The reason we keep a low profile is not because that people will harass us. It's because the way society has repressed LGBTQ,
right.
you grow up feeling scared of having to speak that out. So if you get a chance to live with some amount of respect, you grab at it, you take it. And that's the only way it should be. Isn't that what everybody is looking for?
Right.
Respect. To live the way you want to. If you were in a heterosexual marriage and you went to your in-laws' place, the only thing you will look for first, before love, you will look for respect. Are you treated as a person? Are you treated as a human being? Or are you treated as a maid in waiting? Because the day they start to treat you like a maid in waiting or somebody who is not a part of the family, but ye tumhari ghar ki bahu hai, you will tell yourself, I have no respect.
Right.
What good is a heterosexual marriage then? If you're a girl who's growing up, if you're a girl who's growing up in a household where you're treated like a second-class citizen because you're a female, is that normal? Where is the respect? So if you're given that respect, that okay, you are who you are, it doesn't matter who you are. When you're out in the society, when you're out earning a living, when you're out doing an honest job,
right.
You don't wear LGBTQ like a scarlet letter on your, lapel and say, hello, this is who I am.
Right.
You don't do that. I mean, you're not that crazy, everybody has their own quirks. But to judge a person into conforming to an idea of what you think they should be, why? I can't even do that to my children and I made them. I should have full and final rights on them to say, hey, I made you. Worked very hard, I'm doing it too.
Right.
So, I have every which right to tell you what length of hair you can keep and what food you can eat. No.
Right. That's
they are their own
society.
You can't dictate to them. I can't dictate to my daughter and tell her that, no. Mommy is saying that you need to do it like this or to my own. Do what you want to do, man. Just do it with dignity, do it with respect. Right. Be your own person.
That's a Balban movement. Like Like, it's actually a Bourbon moment for me, and I think so for most of the people in society, because we have been listening to all this. Okay, what your parents say, what others say, listen to it, do it. But yes, you should hear your heart. If you cannot hear your heart, you cannot do what you want to do. You would never be able to even achieve what you want.
I've come to realize, I completely agree with you, and I've come to realize when you stop telling the children what to do, they keep coming back to you for advice.
Yeah. That is
They
actually
keep coming
true.
back.
That is actually
They always do that. They will keep coming back to you. And that goes for anybody. That goes for anybody and everybody. If you leave me be to do what I need to do, at some point of time, I will start to seek your help and say, hey, I'd like to do this. How should I do that?
Yes.
You know, or I need your help. It's like that. But if you constantly needle me and tell me, नहीं वहाँ जाओगे तो ये करना है, नहीं वहाँ जाओगे तो कपड़े ये पहनो, और ऐसे कैसे तुम चली गई, you know, या वहाँ जाओगे तो देखो तुमको ये लोग मिलेंगे तो पहले इसका ये करना है, पहले उसका वो करना है, पहले ये करो, घर में उठ के पहले ये काम करो, अपना बाद में देखो. And after a point of time you start to tell yourself, seriously, like what am I, paid monkey? You know, you can ask me to bounce around whenever you want. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't.
So okay, so all through this,
It never worked like that.
I mean, how did you actually, guys? How did you both handle rude comments or judgmental behavior by the people towards both of you? I mean, of course, you are. I feel so much of strongness and so much of love over here. But then in that moment, and even now, you might be feeling some people saying rude comments at times. So how do you guys manage it? I mean, you can also inspire others also who are dealing with the same thing.
I'll give you the straightest personal line on this one, and Jenny's probably going to scream at me. We hug each other, we hold each other, we cry our hearts out, but at the end of the day, we are with each other. That's how we've tided through everything that came up. Whether it came from her side of the family or it came from my side of the family, that's how it was. We held on to each other. We hug each other and we cry and we cry and we cry, but we find a way out for the two of us. That's it.
Very sweet.
That's how we handled everything that came out.
Very sweet. Very crisp. Sorry.
We never ran away from the situation. We left that situation, but we never ran away from each other. And some seriously foul stuff got thrown out. Some devilishly foul stuff got thrown out.
Okay.
But it didn't mean that, okay, now you go your way and you know what, I can't deal with this anymore. No.
Right.
It was never.
Sweet. So, Preeti, can you take the next question over here?
Sure. So I would just, since already marriage wala part is covered, so I'll just take the last question. So yeah, just a quick sum up, I would say, or something that you might have on your mind. Do you think like same-sex marriage should be accepted? Like there should be a law saying yes, it's accepted, and do you think at the same time that where it's accepted, people do take it as like, okay, they are wholeheartedly welcoming people with it, or do you think they still have that skepticism in their mind?
There is no doubt in my mind, and there are zilch ifs and buts about the should same-sex marriage be accepted. If I have chosen to live with my partner forever, logically what I own belongs to my partner, and logically what she owns belongs to me. And if the law is denying us that, it amounts to harassment. Full stop. Let's start with that as a premise. Having said that, because I have also traveled to Europe, I have traveled to the US, I have traveled to a lot of these countries. I have lived with people who are in same-sex marriages in their houses very happily. I can tell you for a guarantee that in countries where same-sex marriages are accepted, the couples are accepted completely as part of the family. They have adopted children who grow up knowing that they have two dads or two moms. In school, it's so much of fun when you go to a school where everybody all the kids who are growing up together can talk about their parents, and children will come saying, these are my dads or these are my moms. Nobody sniggers, nobody laughs, everybody loves it. They are there for everybody to see. And I can say that for a surety, because as of right now, my daughter's roommate, as in her flatmate, is transgender. She goes by the name of Melody. It's as simple as that. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see the relationship that Melody has with Shagun and her boyfriend. I see when I used to travel for exhibitions, the creative director for the exhibition that I used to go to, Keith, has now been married for a good, I think, 16 years. And he and his partner have an adopted daughter who is now 14 years old. It's amazing. That man is the creative director of the IFAM, which is like the Oscars of craft. Literally. It's fantastic to see how these people are accepted. It is so beautiful. It's amazing. And I'm not talking about youngsters here. I'm not talking about youngsters. My friend in the US took me for a meeting when her book was being launched. She was allowed to bring a guest, so she took me. And she said, you come with me. And while we were at the book launch, there was another couple there named Christina and Roxy. They're both gay. They're in their 50s. Watching them, that was when Rini and I had just met. Our relationship was just a few months old. I was watching Roxy and I was watching Christina all evening. And the only thing that Marin said to me was, isn't that what you want to be? And I said, forever. I see this. This is what I see for me and for Rini. Just us forever. It was so beautiful. And we were at a book launch. We were not at a small time affair. I was not having coffee at someone's house. We were at a book launch. Look at what these people were treated like. It was brilliant. It was so heartening to see. I know this is the creative industry where LGBTQ is accepted very easily. Very, very easily. But it's not just about that. It's not just about that.
Right.
They're human. So what if they're two females, or so what if they're two males? There is so much of dignity in growing up, growing old together and raising a family and having a child of your own. This little girl who they can show off and say is our daughter, who's now a 15-year-old. Really, imagine her sense of pride when she can say, I have two dads, one of whom is the creative director of so-and-so.
Right.
It's beautiful. You get that kind of respect. It's absolutely beautiful. In India, you only get that respect if you're famous.
Right.
That's it. If you're a celebrity and if you're LGBTQ, you're treated like, oh my God, but you're treated clownishly.
Right.
Not everybody gets that degree of respect. Not everybody. You're almost treated like, oh my God, this person's a celebrity and this person's LGBTQ. And sometimes you're just speculating, you really don't. It's just, and now with more and more celebrities coming out and saying openly that they are gay, it's just a matter of time. That acceptance has to come. I mean, are you going to throw Duti Chand out of the house because she's gay? Look at what she's done for the country. What is more important? What she's actually done, the respect that she's earned, or her choice of a partner?
I really hope, we all can actually do something about this. This society, this Indian society thing is not recognizing the individuality, not recognizing what a human being is doing, and just seeing them in the same kind of very small pipeline. Okay, this is how things are done. But I'm glad that you guys actually took a nice step. You broke that, that all the web that people are having. You actually made the perspective so big, and I just hope that this video can actually, I really want people to see this video, honestly. I really hope now. And I'll actually personally also, share it with everybody that, you should see this. Even if you don't have people around you for now, they might be straight and everything, but tomorrow you may want to, tell everybody that there are different things happening around you. You just have to open your mind for it. You have to accept those things, bring that acceptance. So I'm really glad I met you guys, honestly.
That acceptance will only come if you are willing to let go of the shame that you feel for them.
Right.
That acceptance will never come if you're ashamed of what that person has done. That is why a lot of families don't accept. They're ashamed.
Yes.
To them, it's a sense of shame. Oh my God, mera bacha aisa hai. Why are you ashamed?
Because of families, the person themselves, they feel ashamed. They have that fear and guilt. That's the reason they don't come out, because they have that thing. Okay, I'll be judged. So if we get out of that fear, definitely families would be able to understand us. So we need to get out of that cocoon of our own.
We
that
have
we have
2 kids.
Yeah, we have 2 of our own.
Right, charity begins at home.
Trajectory now. It's okay. Easy.
All right. So let's just take it ahead. So Anupama and Rainy, I think Team Kamsej loved your presence amidst us today. I mean, I totally personally loved it, and we would again like to tell that both of you were an inspiration here today, and we really, really salute you for your courage that you took up, actually, honestly. And for the viewers also, we would like to know from you also, what do you think about their journey in the comment section below, and keep watching our webinars also. So for an end note, would you both like to say something to Team Kamsej today?
I can only say that sorry, we are late in for giving this interview.
That's okay. You came, that's more important to us.
I will add to that and say, other than the apologies, thank you for providing this platform for people to speak and to express themselves. I think the more straight community these reach to, the better the acceptance will be.
That's really right.
And in that, yes, your help is highly appreciated. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be part of this platform.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. That's it.